Hello everyone, this is once again Visual Pony with another video for Pony&Wolf Productions, and today we are reading the story A Close Call by Jammin P. Rose. Wait, we did have this author on here not too long ago, didn't we? Oh my god, so we have another Fallout one-shot from Jammin. So let's see where this is going. It has something to do with the Cutie Mark Crusaders, and it is post the Day of Sunshine and Rainbows. So I am actually very curious. Also have a little list of our amazing patrons on Patreon who keep supporting us with all those lovely monthly donations that keep our channel alive and of course our bills paid and the lights on so that we can keep recording, and as well as that, well, enabling us to buy treats for our little Luna. Thwack, thwack, thwack. I hate swamps. Why do we have to be here? A small unicorn colt complains as they use a machete to cut through a set of vines on a fallen tree. And why do we have to make the path? We have to make the path because Ranger Bowie has gone missing and we're still waiting for someone to come and take over the job. A taller Earth pony filly replies as she tries to wipe some mud off her blue-coated face, eventually just using her red crusader cape to do so. Stop whining, Razor. The sooner we get this path done, the sooner we can sell mangoes easier and buy better treats for the crusaders. Yeah, whatever you say, Blue Iris. Razor says as he wipes the sweat from his head with his silver-turned brown hoof, spreading mud across his brow more than cleaning away the sweat. As he continues to cut away at the vines, he mutters, "Totally not because Lilac Wind wants more mangoes." I heard that, Razor! Iris says as she bucks one end of the tree, cracking the dead wood open. So what? It's not like she isn't benefiting from this. Plus, there's that cute bat crusaders that she likes. He shoots back, punctuated by another thwack of his machete. You can't tell me that's not part of why she wants this. Less jibber-jabber and more chop-chop, Razor! She calls back as she starts pushing the broken part of the tree away from the place where the path will be. You can have a treat when we get back to the lodge. Razor doesn't speak again, but the swacks of his machete become quicker than before. Slowly, the pair of them are able to de-vine the tree, break it up, and move it out of the way of the path. With that tree cleared away, they continue down the planned path between the mango grove and the edge of the swamp. A couple of smaller trees block the best way through for carts, however, they look to be less than daunting than the massive ones they had spent the morning removing. Each tree that needs removing is marked on Iris's map as they walked. The quiet ambience of the swamp fills the silence between the two of them as they reach the edge of the swamp. The trees thinned out a while ago and the horrid smells of the swamp bogs fade as they come to a stop. Here we go, the path we're making ends here. Iris says to Razor as she takes a seat on the ground. Finally! Can we rest here for a while? Like all night, perhaps? Razor says as he flops down onto the non-swampy ground. You know we need to head back, Razor. They'll get worried about us if we don't. Iris replies as she scoots over to him and lays against him. Plus, we can have a nice treat when we get back to the lodge. I know. I just don't like it in the swamp. It's scary. Razor shivers. Those mole creatures almost got me once before we blew up their home. Iris makes a gentle shushing sound as she shifts and pulls him into a hug. They're gone now. They can't hurt you and we got revenge for Bramble. I miss him, Razor says with a sniff. So do I, but we can't do anything for him by crying. So we're going to make this path out and sell 1,000,000 mangoes for him, okay? Iris asks as she wipes away the tears from Razor's face. Yeah, we'll make him proud, Razor says as he sniffles and rains in his tears. Do you think he's happy in the treehouse in the sky? Yeah, I do. I bet he's watching us right now, happy to see that we're going to be selling the mangoes across the wasteland. Thanks for being here, Iris. You're welcome, Razor. Now let's get back to the lodge before we miss dinner. The pair of them get back up and start walking towards the lodge, only to be stopped in their tracks by a mighty roar. The ground shakes as the horizon looms a massive hydra. The beast charges through the swamp, not exactly in their direction, but close. The pair of them dive for cover, using their small forms to hide from the lumbering beast. The behemoth of a creature stomps along not 100 feet from their hiding spots as they watch it. They realize that it's not rampaging, it's fleeing. Following behind it is a tall, dark-coated unicorn stallion wielding a scythe in his magic, while also firing off massive bolts of lightning, each one making the beast roar in pain. All the while, Razor shivers against Iris, his teeth chattering and his horns sparking a little. The stallion occasionally sends his scythe out to cut the massive beast as they continue to drive it forward. Slowly, the roars and sounds of magic fade, but Razor doesn't stop shaking like a leaf in the wind. Even with Iris holding him tightly, it takes a while for him to calm down, and all the while his horn sparks with magic.
That's a stallion,
Razor stutters, his teeth chattering.
He's a god!
What do you mean, Razor?
Are you okay?
Iris asks as she checks him over.
Your horn was sparking like we were going to have a wild magic burst. Didn't you feel his magic? The pressure of it?
He asks with a shiver.
It was like a tsunami, like in the story you reread the other night.
I didn't feel that. It was beyond impressive, though, she says as she lifts him onto her back.
Let's get you back to the lodge, okay? Yeah,
Razor says as he holds tight onto her back. The trek back to the lodge is slow, and by the time they arrive, it's well into the evening. When they step into the lodge, the buzz of talk is almost overwhelming, all of which comes to a stop when they see Razor clinging to Iris's back. Half a dozen crusaders rush over to them to take Razor over to a table to check him over. As they look him over, Iris walks up to their group leader.
Summer days, what was all that chatter about?
She asks as she sits next to said Pony, a colt with a yellow coat. Did you see the Hydra? Summer asks as he turns to look at her.
Yeah, it passed within like 100 feet of us. Some kind of navy or black unicorn was driving it out of the swamp.
Iris says.
His presence had some kind of effect on Razor.
Razor's not the only one. 3 of the other crusaders are suffering the same effect. One of them said it was like their voice was being drowned out in a crusader meeting, but with their magic. Summer explains. We have no idea who this pony is, but if he removed the Hydra from the swamp like you say, then we need to be careful. I want you to spread the word not to mess with him.
Will do, Summer,
Iris says with a salute. Once you're done, grab some treats and share them with Razor. You two deserve some after that, Summer says, leaning over and hugging her. And thanks for bringing him back safely. Iris blushes at that and heads off to spread the word. Stay away from the mysterious stallion with a scythe, whoever he is. So, hello and welcome back to another Comment Time with Visual Pony, where I remind you that you can support Pony&Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every little helps, it's needed and very much appreciated, and helps to keep the lights on around here. And now let's get into the meat of the story, because, oh my word, what the heck is this? I have a feeling that Jammin P. Rose is actually working on his own little Fallout Equestria universe, and I am interested in it because that pony with a scythe, as we know from another story we have read by him, is actually a pony called Nyx. So, yeah, I'm curious here. Also curious why Jammin P. Rose doesn't simply go ahead and write an entire Fallout Equestria story instead of, doing it in one-shots. Sincerely yours, Visual Pony, and I will certainly check out this author's profile page, because maybe they have started to write their own Fallout Equestria story and I simply haven't seen it yet. And as always, I hope that this video finds you well in body and mind. Hello everyone, this is Visual Pony once again with another video for Pony&Wolf Productions. And today we are reading the story, Are You There, Twilight? It's Twilight! By Forgetful. I kinda like the premise of this because, you know, Twilight and her time travel spell and all that. It was an amazing episode, one of my favorites actually. And so, you know. But as always, here's a list of those amazing patrons who keep this channel alive with their amazing monthly donations that keep us able to pay our bills and buy cat treats for our little Luna, who is currently sleeping on the bed on my blanket. Totally passed out, and yeah, she is just completely conked out. I just tried to pet her earlier and she didn't even purr or react in any way. She's completely passed out. So, now let's get into the meat of the story, because I am sure I am annoying you a great deal by now. Dubious temporal duplicates. Twilight Sparkle gazed at the dandelion sandwich on her plate with melancholic expression. It was lunch and all that was available had to be dandelions. They were the most tasteless of culinary experiences. School lunches in general happened to be a lackluster. The young mare needed to study. Celestia's summer sun celebration was on the horizon, drawing ever closer. Twilight hoped to make a breakthrough soon, one that could cement herself as a most faithful student. She wasn't sure why, but the answer dealt with an old mare's tale. The Mare in the Moon. Without warning, a blinding light filled the dark corridors of her humble astronomy tower. Twilight lifted her hoof to block out the fiery blaze. Spike curled up in his bed after an all-nighter, snoring away during such an amazing occurrence. Twilight Sparkle? A silhouette of an alicorn stepped from the light, her voice that of elegance and eternal wisdom. Celestia? Twilight shielded herself from the light. No, it is I, you! The voice giggled with satisfaction. Who? Twilight scrunched her muzzle, confused as the light faded back into the abyss, leaving only a gangly long version of herself standing before her. Sweet Celestia, when did I become anorexic? Twilight gasped at such a horrid glimpse into her future. I'm not anorexic, I'm an alicorn, her future self spoke in a cocky tone of self-superiority. Uh-huh. Does alicorn magic mutate the host? Twilight jumped off her seat and slowly walked around this odd temporal creature with much interest. Future Twilight glared, growing ever annoyed at the foolish child before her. No, I'm just a tad older. She swatted away the child as her muzzle scrunched up, embarrassed by the inspection. You're more than just old. I mean, my skeletal structure shouldn't enlarge like that. Twilight shuddered, thinking how painful such a change must be. Just shut up! Future Twilight snapped as her younger self let out a hoarse noise escape her lips in shock. Whatever, Celestia recolor. Twilight blew a loud raspberry. Listen, I'm here to help you impress every pony around you. Future Twilight grinned slyly to herself. Why? Twilight gave a stone-faced expression. Because I noticed how simple I acted as a child, especially with this dumb ticket ordeal. Future Twilight sighed as she slapped her forehead in dismay. So you're cheating me out of important experiences? Twilight tilted her head to the side, confused. Well, I'd rather the future remember me as a perfectionist. Besides, you'll still get the gist of everything, just not by looking dumb. Future Twilight let a loud squeak escape her lips. So, future me thought it wise to jeopardize the space and time continuum to look more impressive? Twilight sighed with a true sense of defeat from such a careless action. I've been so prosperous as a ruler that I've run out of present problems to look impressive with. Future Twilight flashed a nervous smile. How is that even possible? Twilight stumbled over her words. The sickly creature wrapping a bony hoof around her shoulder. Peace. Peace everywhere. She pointed off to nothing in particular in the room. I've metamorphosed into a Mary Sue. Twilight shuddered at such a bleak future. You have not? Future Twilight snorted. Have we solved every problem we come across? Twilight swallowed a large lump in her throat. Yes. Are we all powerful? Twilight shivered. Yes. Did we simply lock away our villains instead of dealing with them, therefore passing up vast amounts of character building? Twilight felt her chest tighten in fear. We turned them to stone. Do I have a rip-off or snip-off version of myself across several universes, nay, one perhaps a chibi version? Twilight chattered her teeth in despair. Several? Future Twilight grinned like the corporate husk she had become. Ah! Twilight screamed as she darted over the window in terror. Now let's make you perfect, by extension making myself perfect! Future Twilight towered over the poor child intimidatingly. Never! I'd rather live a simplistic life than risk becoming bland over time! Twilight's eyes darted over the room for an escape plan. We're not bland, we own a school! Future Twilight coughed in a lackluster fashion. I will not make these horrible mistakes! Twilight smiled as a truly impressive idea hit her. You don't have a choice, you're destined to become an Elecon princess! Future Twilight scoffed with satisfaction. So you think, but you're no longer in your own time? Twilight puffed out her chest proudly before standing up to her doppelganger. So? This is my time and nothing is set! Twilight grinned. Future Twilight suddenly widened her eyes in absolute shock at such a rookie mistake. Time travel was indeed such an unforgiving mistress, lashing any pony out of existence if not respectful of her power. You wouldn't dare! You care too much about impressing those around you! Future Twilight tried to light up her horn and cast the return spell. Not anymore, in fact, I'd rather just make ponies happy. Twilight clapped her hoofs together excitedly. No! My accomplishments! Future Twilight felt herself vanishing into a dark light, the world around her turning bleak as her whole body started to become transparent and see-through. Twilight's amazing, or the incredible! Twilight let her mind run free with thoughts of traveling around Equestria. My accomplishments! Man. Twilight suddenly faded into a faint echo of a time forgotten. At that moment, Twilight Sparkle felt a new spark of excitement enter her life. The bleak grey walls of her astronomy tower suddenly lit up with the vibrant colors of unknown possibilities. The great and powerful Twilight! Twilight Sparkle ran over to her full-length mirror in excitement, beaming from ear to ear. Twilight loves the sound of that! Twilight cantered across the room to wake up Spike, barely able to hold back her excitement. Before she could reach her little dragon friend, she stepped atop the old book of legends and adventures. With a sigh, she felt it was time to move on and find something new. With a swift toss, the book was sent out the window. A light blue unicorn passing by underneath couldn't help but be pelted atop the head by the falling tome. She rubbed her hoof through a frazzled snow-white mane in defeat. She wasn't the most popular of ponies with hardly any real friends, but things just seemed to never work out for one Trixie Lulamoon. Traveling isn't all it's cracked up to be, Trixie mumbled, just knowing that Tome was going to leave a bump, her eyes falling over the book with a thin-raised brow. The man the moon? Trixie felt an odd shiver run down her lower back, the night slowly engulfing the day around her as everything grew dim. Arcing her eyes upwards to the sky, she could make out the ominous silhouette of a dark creature stretched across the moon. Oh my! Trixie bit her lower lip and gathered up the book. Celestia must be warned. Hello everyone and welcome back to Comment Time with Social Pony, where I remind you that Pony&Wolf productions can be supported by the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps is needed and very much appreciated, and helps to keep the lights on around here and to buy cat treats for our little Luna, who is currently sleeping on my bed. So, let's get into the meat of the story because, yeah. Oh my god, guys. Just imagine this twist of events where then Trixie Lulamoon becomes Celestia's faithful student, meets Applejack, and maybe even becomes the element of magic. Oh my word, I love it. I want to have an entire universe around this. I love it. because I'm actually someone I like Trixie. So sincerely yours, Visual Pony, and let me know in the comments down below what you think about this universe idea. And as always, I hope that this story finds you well, body and mind. Hello and welcome back to another Pony and Wolf Productions video. My name is once again Visual Pony, and today we are reading the story Discount Chocolates by the author PokeFreak13. Now, I am not much for, Valentine's Day and everything. I mean, I go along with it because I know it means a lot to my fiance. By the time this video comes out, very likely wife. But, I'm very aware that Valentine's Day is just a thing where, big companies want you to buy stuff for your significant other. And I think that if you don't show your affection other times of the year, then something might be wrong with your relationship. I show my affection to my significant other almost every day, and I think that is actually the way to go. But anyhow, here you have a list of those amazing people who keep this amazing channel alive with their amazing monthly donations, so we can pay our bills. Not our amazing bills, our bills. And keeps the lights on around here. And without further ado, let's get into the meat of the story, because I know that I'm annoying you a great deal right now. Discount Hearts and Hoofs Chocolates. The door opened with a merry chime as Rainbow Dash trotted inside Sugar Cube Corner. She took a deep breath, savoring the sweet smell of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Her mouth began to water like a flooded river, but she quickly shook her head. After all, she was on a very important mission, so failure was not an option. "Hello, Rainbow Dash!" Mr. Carrot Cake reached from behind the counter.
Hey,
She replied before trotting over towards the counter.
what can I get ya?
He asked. The smell of flowers steamed off of his yellowish body.
Where's your Hearts and Hoofs chocolate?
She questioned. They're right behind me, Mr. Cake answered with a raised eyebrow. Blushing, Rainbow Dash gazed up at the shelf behind him. Sure enough, all kinds of sweets were put on display there. Lollipops with every color of the rainbow, speckled jawbreakers the size of a newborn foal's eye, to even jars upon jars of different-sized gumballs. However, none of this impressed Rainbow. Instead, she was more focused on what was placed, or rather crammed, in the corners. Chocolates. Some were heart-shaped boxes the color of fire, while others were carefully crafted to look like roses with red foil wrapped around the petals. And the exciting part was that they were all half off. Sometimes even more if Rainbow Dash could pay her cards right. "See anything you like?" Mr. Cake asked.
How much is everything altogether?
Rainbow replied while pulling out a sack of bits from her saddlebags. Well, the last I checked we still had 20 items, and since we priced them down to... Carrot Cake quickly pulled out a calculator from one of the drawers and began to punch in numbers. "That would be a total of 30 bits. The Pegasus frowned. That was a little more than she was expecting, however, this was for a good cause.
Deal!
Fluttershy stretched out on her lime green sofa, her back legs cracking like the embers of a fire. She let out a sigh and dragged a faded yellow blanket over her body before closing her eyes. It was mid-afternoon, which meant only one thing: nap time. After all, taking care of all those animals used up a lot of energy from Fluttershy, so she was grateful to have at least a few hours of sleep, though sometimes her animal friends would allow her to sleep well into the evening. However, a knock at the door forced her awake. She gave her door a glare before getting up. After a few seconds to compose herself, for she didn't want to snap at whoever it was, Fluttershy opens the door. It took her multiple trips back and forth, a wagon, and some help from her pal Scootaloo, but Rainbow Dash was finally here. A little tired and sore, but here nonetheless. Surrounded by bags upon bags of sweets, Rainbow Dash knocked on the door. A smile adorned her face, which only grew once the door opened, revealing Fluttershy, who was rubbing her eye.
Rainbow? What are you doing here?
Fluttershy asked.
Happy Hearts and Hoofs Day, Flutters!
The light blue Pegasus exclaimed.
But wasn't that a few days ago? Oh my.
Fluttershy's eyes grew wide once she finally figured out what was in all those bags.
You didn't have to buy me all this.
Rainbow Dash gently pushed past her friend while dragging 2 of the bags inside.
Nonsense! You are my best friend after all!
Fluttershy helped drag the remaining bags inside and closed the door, her brain completely fried. After all, how much money did Rainbow even spend on these anyways? As if reading her mind, her friend smirked.
Don't worry, they were all half-priced, so I didn't end up spending a fortune. Half-priced? Wait, did you? I figured that it would be much more awesome if I could give you a bunch of chocolates instead of a few, so I simply waited for the price of Hearts and Hoofs chocolates to drop before buying you some.
Rainbow Dash interrupted.
Well, since you went through all this trouble, would you like some tea?
Fluttershy offered with a smile. The light blue Pegasus nodded her head with a smile before following her friend into the kitchen, a bag full of chocolates dragging behind her.
That hits a spot!
Rainbow sighed after guzzling down her cup of raspberry tea.
I'm glad you liked it. Indra and I brewed a fresh batch today.
Fluttershy explained.
You just happened to make my favorite tea on the day I was going to visit you.
Rainbow grinned, causing her friend to blush.
Fluttershy, I didn't know you were quite the stalker. Well, you're the one who bought all the leftover chocolates. If anything, I'd say you were hitting on me.
Fluttershy blurted out, only to cover her mouth with her hooves. The blue Pegasus blushed a deep crimson, and her stomach began to flip. Of course, Fluttershy was only joking, right? They were best friends after all. Besides, Rainbow wasn't romantically interested in any pony as of now, and as far as she was concerned, neither was Fluttershy.
I was joking,
Fluttershy replied, trying her best to conceal her crimson cheeks. Rainbow Dash let out a shaky chuckle.
I knew that. Anyways, I better get going. It's getting late, and I promised Scootaloo's dad that I'd pick her up from Rarities. Yeah, I need to check on some of my animals,
Fluttershy replied.
Anyways, thanks for the chocolates again.
The light blue Pegasus gave a small smile while climbing out of the stool. Her legs felt like jelly, but she did her best to hide it once she was out the door.
See you later, Fluttershy!
She exclaimed before stepping outside.
See you later, Rainbow Dash.
Her friend smiled before closing the door. The soft yellow Pegasus watched as her friend left. Her mind was still buzzing with what she said before. Of course she was only joking. They were only best friends after all. Right? Hello and welcome back to Comment Time with Visual Pony, where I remind you that you can support Pony&Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps as needed and very much appreciated and helps to keep the lights on around here because, you know, electricity and bills are a thing. So, let's get into the meat of the story because I am not the Micro Machines man and I never wanted to be the Micro Machines man, and, well, if Micro Machines offered me a job as the new Micro Machines man, I might actually consider it because I need the money. Yeah, I am a sellout in that regard, but hey, I need the money and, you know, living is kind of something that you need money for. Anyhow, let's get into the meat of the story because I cannot keep speaking like this for much longer. So, holy heck, is this like a Fluttershy Rainbow Dash ship story? I didn't think it was, but I'm not completely against it, you know. I mean, I do personally ship Rainbow Dash with Soren, but, you know, that's just my personal preference. But yeah, let me know what you think about this. Sincerely yours, Visual Pony. As always, I hope that this story finds you well in body and mind. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Pony&Wolf Productions video. My name is Visual Pony, and today we are reading the story Princess Celestia vs. a Cockroach by the author Vertigo22. Now, the reason why I'm deciding to read this story is because, well, I looked at it and it literally has 4 readings there that, you know, are supposedly on YouTube. I clicked each and every one, and all of the channels seem to have been suspended. So there seems to be no reading of this currently available. And here I go, and will make one. And don't forget, here's as always a list of those amazing people who keep our channel alive with their monthly donations. And don't forget, Every dollar helps, is needed and very much appreciated. Believe it, we really, really need your help. And as always, I will now get into the meat of the story because I am fairly certain that I am annoying you a great deal right now. The Battle of the Century. There it was. On the counter in the kitchen, and sitting motionless, was a small, reddish-brown insect with an oval-shaped body. 2 large antennae extended from its small head. A cockroach. The single most loathed insect to ever disgrace the face of Aquis. Celestia stood, petrified. She couldn't believe what was mere inches from her bagel. Her eyes were as white as the plate that her meal rested on. The mere sight of such a horrid pest was indescribable. They weren't meant to be in the royal castle. They were meant to be in third-rate butcher shops in the slums of Manhattan. Yet here one was. It had emerged from behind a stack of microwavable dinners, and now it defiled the beautiful pearl-colored counter. All the while it stared at the bagel of the Princess of the Sun, its compound eyes no doubt filled with gluttony. Celestia backed away from the ghastly insect and up against the wall as her breathing continued to increase. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. It's hard to say anything when one's thoughts are centered on the stuff of nightmares. Not to mention when one's eyes are glued to the single most horrifying thing since the millipede crawled across their favorite pillow. Nonetheless, Celestia continued to stare. And stare. Until she finally snipped out of her stupor. Not because she wasn't scared. No, she was still piss-her-pants terrified. Rather, the cockroach did the unthinkable. The single most horrible thing imaginable. It crawled into her bagel. The audacity of this action was too much. Celestia's eyes burned with anger, and from tears of absolute terror, as her horn lit up. "No insect defiles my breakfast!" she cried as she fired off a magical bolt at the rancid creature. "No insect!" The bolt struck the bagel, causing it to explode into dozens of small, no longer edible pieces of roach-tainted bread, butter, and mayonnaise. But the cockroach was still alive. Nary a scratch on its glorious reddish-brown body or thorax. "How are you not a pile of ash?" Celestia screamed, her eyes wide and her mouth hanging open. "Are you some sort of mutated being from another land?" The cockroach stood motionless for a few seconds before it crawled towards the nearby cookie jar, uninterested in the deranged alicorn's ramblings about being anything other than a lonesome insect from the outside world. "You shall answer me!" Celestia said as she enveloped the insect in her magic and levitated it over, only to realize what she'd just done. Like a little foal, she dropped it and let out a high-pitched shriek before running to the other side of the room. The roach spread its glorious wings and flew towards the counter again before it quickly made haste to the cookie jar again. "You shall not defile my sister's snacks!" Celestia proclaimed as she prepared to fire off magic bolts so powerful it once made Luna wince with pain. This was truly a spell worthy of the Princess of the Sun and no pony else. The bolt flew towards the roach, who by now was mere inches from the cookie jar. It struck the insect and destroyed a portion of the counter, causing pieces of it to fly in all directions and strike the wall, denting it. Alas, the cockroach didn't die. Its hardy shell being too resilient for even the magic of Celestia to penetrate, and continued its epic quest for a cookie or 20. Celestia couldn't believe her eyes. This abomination had survived 2 magic bolts, each filled with enough power to drain a fair amount of energy from her. "What is the meaning of this, you disgusting 6-legged freak?" she growled. The cockroach didn't answer and simply made its way up to the cookie jar, only to discover the top to the jar was on it. This was truly a dark day for all of cockroach kind. Celestia, however, beamed. For once, Luna remembered to put the lid back on it, she thought. Her joy was short-lived, however, as a cockroach made its way towards an exposed bowl of salad that was labeled as belonging to Luna. Celestia was in awe at the sight, partly because it wasn't damaged from her 2 attacks on the insect, and partially because Luna ate salad without dressing. She made a mental note to ask her how she was capable of such a monumental feat. However, during the time it took her to register her sister's choice when it came to salad, the cockroach had begun to help itself to a piece of lettuce. Celestia gasped at the sight and, with the type of response expected from the pony that can control a giant ball of plasma, fired off a beam of magic which destroyed the bowl of salad and a large portion of the counter. But not the cockroach. Celestia's right eye twitched violently. Her mental state was now on par with a pony who was about to be audited. So she did the only thing that seemed reasonable. She levitated over a rolling pin and trotted over to the cockroach. Without a word, she slammed the rolling pin down onto the road, which resulted in a sickening crunch. Celestia threw aside the rolling pin and let out a heavy sigh. She fell to her haunches and looked around the kitchen. Bits of bagel and burnt salad littered the floor, and the once beautiful, teal-colored wall was now dented. Reminds me of when Twilight first tried cooking, she mused to herself. After a few minutes, Celestia stood up and walked towards the refrigerator. She levitated out a package of cheese and rested it on an undamaged section of the counter. I hope Luna understands what happened here, she said as she made herself a simple cheese sandwich. However, from a small crack in the wall, and with gluttony-filled eyes, a cockroach watched as Celestia made her breakfast. Hello everyone and welcome back to Comment Time on the Visual Pony, where I remind you that you can support Pony&Wolf Productions with the link into the description. Every dollar helps is needed and very much appreciated, and helps to keep the lights on around here and helps me and Midnight eating. Yes, because Midnight has now moved in here and I have to basically pay for all of our food now with the same money I had before, which was already tight, and it's now even tighter. So yeah, if you can spend, you spare a buck or so, that would be very much appreciated, and you get awesome perks like early downloads of all the MP3 files of my work. So, about this story, yes, guys, I can totally agree that it is very hard to destroy a freaking cockroach. I only once in my life encountered one, and that was in my grandpa's house. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what it wanted there. It doesn't matter. I literally tried everything. I tried different kinds of poison. I tried glue. I literally tried to glue it in place. It ate itself free. I tried hairspray. I tried burning it. I tried smacking it with a shoe. Nothing frickin' worked. Eventually, I caught it in a jar, filled the entire, opened up just a little bit of the lid, and just sprayed a lot of poison in there and closed the lid, and after I think 5 or 10 minutes or so, the thing just rolled over and died. But oh my word, before that I had used the exact same kind of poison and sprayed the thing so heavily that its entire shell was white. Okay? And it didn't even flinch. The only thing that apparently killed it was being in a pure toxic atmosphere there, and oh my word. That was just getting rid of it was a real problem. It took me, I think, 3 days. But yeah, let me know about your experiences with cockroaches. By the way, this was the only cockroach ever to be in that house, and I'm kind of glad about that. Sincerely yours, Visual Pony, and as Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Pony&Wolf Productions video. My name is, as always, Visual Pony, and today we are reading the story Trixie Comes Out by the author King of Madness. This is an author that I don't think we have featured on here before, but the story seems to be quite interesting. At least my dear fiancé Midnight29 has told me so, and so I decided to read it. So, as always, I will show you an amazing list of those amazing people who keep this channel alive with their amazing monthly donations that help us to, stay alive, keep eating, and, most of all, pay our bills. And now, without further ado, let's get into the story because I am fairly certain that I am annoying you a great deal by now. Trixie is a lesbian. Come again? Starlight asked, slightly confused. It's true, Trixie responded in a serious tone. The great and powerful Trixie is a lesbian. Now, Trixie must admit she's never considered herself as such before. But that was before she met this radiant beauty who sits beside me. The magician motioned to the pony who sat beside her on the couch. Isn't she beautiful? Starlight's eyes flickered back and forth between the two. She was silent for a moment before responding. She's, very pretty. Trixie scoffed at this poor excuse of a compliment. Just pretty? Trixie's girlfriend is far more than that. She's perfection! She looked lovingly at her true love beside her. Starlight nodded. Not much of a talker, is she? Oh, she's just a tad shy is all. Well, except when it comes to Trixie, but who wouldn't pay attention to Trixie? I wouldn't if I could help it. Starlight snarked in her head. Trixie sighed contentedly and looked to her friend. You know, Starlight, I want to be really honest with you. For so long, Trixie has traveled Equestria showing off her greatness to the commoners of the world. But to be honest, it has been a lonely road. So often Trixie has felt isolated. Starlight mumbled something like, while sipping on her coffee. For as much love as Trixie has received from her adoring fans. All two of them. Starlight bit back the snark. She has been craving a more integral relationship. I think you mean intimate. Yeah, whatever. And as shocking as this is, Trixie has not had the best luck with stallions. No! You? Alas, as impossible as it seems, Trixie has never had a boyfriend. Now I admit it wasn't from lack of trying. It seems the stallions Trixie tried to court didn't like her very much. I wonder why. Oh, jealousy mostly. You know how some ponies are. So envious of those around them who are more talented than they are. Lashing out like the pathetic, attention-starving little folds they are deep down. Like you? Yeah, like you. But don't worry, I love you anyway, Starlight. That's nice of you. Trixie tried to understand what was wrong with those colts, but she never understood until she met her. Trixie locked eyes with her lover. It was the most magical moment in equestrian history when our eyes met in that little pawn shop. It was like all the world stopped. Everything about her was perfect. Her silky smooth mane that flowed on the wind like the wings of an angel. Her pristine coat of fur complemented her curves so flawlessly. And just imagine what she could do with that horn. Trixie, please stop drooling on my couch. Trixie snapped out of her stupor, blushing as she wiped her mouth. Oh, sorry. Got a little lost there. But the point is, I realized in that moment that the great and powerful Trixie was also the gay and powerful Trixie. And this absolutely stunning mare who sits beside her now is her special sun pony. What a story, Trix. Yes, Trixie has great and powerful storytelling skills. Well, what do you think? She asked as she nuzzled lovingly with the mare of her dreams. Starlight rubbed the back of her head. Well, you seem happy together. We are! We are the happiest couple in Equestria! Trixie seemed close to tears of joy. Yeah, not to ruin the moment or anything, but you haven't noticed anything off about your girlfriend? Oh, Starlight! Trixie shook her head and got up from the couch to approach her friend's desk. Poor Starlight. I know what's going on. You have nothing to worry about. Starlight raised an eyebrow as Trixie patted her head. Someday you'll find your special Sunpony too. And just because I've found someone better doesn't mean I won't have time for you. You're still Trixie's BFF, so don't be jealous of her girlfriend. Starlight gave her a look that anyone with the most basic sense of empathy would identify as annoyance. Trixie took no notice. Yeah, thanks for the reassurance. I'll try not to be jealous of... She turned to Trixie's girlfriend. I'm sorry, what did you say her name was? Trixie waved off the question as she returned to her lover's side. Oh, what's in a name, Starlight? A rose by any other name would still look sexy. All that matters is that she's Trixie's girlfriend. And soon, Trixie's wife. Starlight blinked the slowest blink she ever blunk. Wife? Trixie broke into excited giggles as she danced in place. Yes! We're getting married! That's actually why we came here! Starlight, you will have the honor of being Trixie's best mare! Starlight rubbed her temples. Goody. Oh, I know you'd be excited. Speaking of which, we got a lot of planning to do. Come on, Trixie's love! Trixie levitated her girlfriend to her side. Starlight rested her head on her hoof and slid her gaze to her planned friend that sat on her desk. Clearly the more intelligent of her two friends in the room. She doesn't walk by herself? Trixie scoffed as she opened the door. Trixie's girlfriend understands that she's a queen and should be treated as such. It's a small price for Trixie to pay for the love of her life. You two have fun. We will? Trixie called back as she left the room, too enamored with her girlfriend to even bother closing the door. Starlight watched Trixie carry her girlfriend down the hall while a few students stopped to stare in confusion as she passed. She watched until Trixie had turned the corner and disappeared from sight. With a sigh, she turned back to Plant Friend. Should I tell her that her girlfriend is just a full-length mirror? Plant Friend of course said nothing as he was a plant. More of a listener than a talker. This left Starlight in silence as she contemplated the true depth of her friend's narcissistic delusions. She'll figure it out during the honeymoon. Maybe. Hello everyone and welcome back to Pony Time with Visual Pony? No, Common Time with Visual Pony. Oh my god, I haven't done one of these in quite a while. Because of health issues, as some of my Patreons and watchers on Twitch actually know, I've had some problems with my health, where I have actually been collapsing and convulsing and all that. Not nice, I can tell you that. Anyhow, let's get into the meat of the story. Also, let me tell you this, because of my health issues, I have been recording this story at home again, with my microphone hanging on a new microphone arm from my computer. I hope that this is actually turning out okay, and that it's not completely echoey and dumb and whatever, because, you know, I kinda would like to keep recording, but recording in the car due to health issues is no longer possible. So what do I have to say about this story? It is frickin' hilarious that I can so see Trixie do something like that. I mean, just imagine, you know, the great and powerful Trixie gets married, and it turns out that it is just a full-length reflection of herself. So, without further ado, as always, I wish you a very good day and that this story finds you well in body and mind.